How's it going, everybody? Adrian here from thegamingobserver.com, and this is your daily news update for Tuesday, October the 6th. Got a decently sized news update for you here today. Let's take a look. Okay, so this story is actually a few days old now, but it is an important one if you haven't heard about it yet. A letter has been acquired from the Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot, where it was revealed that, quote, roughly 25% of employees experienced or witnessed some form of workplace misconduct over the last 2 years, end quote. So basically, the company collected a bunch of data through an anonymous survey, which had close to 14,000 staff submissions. And here is something else that the survey revealed, quote, minority groups were disproportionately affected, women experience harassment 30% more than men, and non-binary employees experience it 43% more than men. Finally, only 66% of respondents who reported an incident felt that they received support from management, end quote. So again, those statistics are within Ubisoft as a corporate structure. Of course, Ubisoft has been going through the ringer on this for a while now. A while back, they went through a series of firings and restructurings, including employees who many people thought were untouchable, such as the Chief Creative Officer Sergei Haskowet. The letter itself does actually outline how they're going to try and improve all of these issues, and you're welcome to peruse that on your own. But for what it's worth, it does appear to be much more substantial than what we've seen from companies before, like, Riot Games. And Ubisoft had a number of firings already up to this point. Time will tell if they follow through on all of this, and if it succeeds, and hopefully it does. Okay, here's a fun one. So, if you have ever played video games on multiple different consoles, you inevitably have run into the issue of remembering which buttons to press, right? You always have to ask yourself, is it A to confirm or B? Is the X, on the bottom, or is it on the left? Not only that, but if you go to different parts of the world, specifically Japan, the configuration of what the expectation is can actually change. So let's take PlayStation, for example. If you live in the West with PlayStation, then you use the bottom button, which is the X, to confirm, and the O, which is on the right, to cancel. However, in Japan, it's the opposite. They use the O, which to them means, good, or okay, or correct, and then the X is cancel. And it has been this way for decades. People who make video games in both the West and Japan have had to make that change since forever. Well, here's the juicy bit. It turns out that Sony is about to switch things up for Japanese users, and it's going to make the UI align with the rest of the world. Here's what a journalist had to say about it, quote, I expect this will go down very badly with Japanese players. Unlearning muscle memory acquired through years of repetition is extremely tough. For the short term, I think Japanese developers are actually going to face more dev burden instead of less due to this, end quote. Anyway, button configuration maybe not the most important thing, all things considered, but I just thought this was a funny story. Let's send some love to our Japanese PlayStation friends. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this a few months ago, but we now have the release date for the major update that is heading to Ghost of Tsushima, and it's coming next Friday, October the 16th. They're calling it version 1.1, and it's going to be free to all players. If you haven't heard of it yet, the biggest thing is the addition of an online co-op mode called Legends, which actually has a bunch of different sub-modes. So there's going to be story missions designed for 2 players, a 4-player horde mode, and then apparently after this update comes out, they're going to have some kind of raid mode on the way as well. I'm thinking like a Destiny raid of some kind, or a WoW raid. Anyway, they've introduced 4 new character classes, which is what you're going to be able to choose from when you play multiplayer. The game is also getting New Game Plus for people who want to play it again, and here's the description of it from Eurogamer, quote, it'll bump up the difficulty while providing complete access to all techniques, gear, and vanity items obtained the first time around. Additionally, it introduces new charms, new sword, bow, and armor unlocks, new trophies, and even a fancy new horse for Jin to gallop about on. End quote. So if you actually want the full details of everything that's coming, they've got a great breakdown on the PlayStation blog, if you're a Ghost of Tsushima player and you're excited for that. But otherwise, yeah, pretty cool to have co-op on a major single-player game. A little unexpected, but certainly pleasant. Well, either way, folks, there you have it. That's the news for today. I would like to thank you very much for joining me here today, and I will be back with the news tomorrow, as always. So until next time, happy gaming, everyone. Hello, everyone. TGO After-Show. I originally was not going to talk about that PlayStation controller story, but then there was just not a lot of news, and I thought it was a lot of fun because I started to picture myself trying to change the way I play games, right? Like, what would happen if all of a sudden the top button of the 4 buttons was the confirm? Like, I play on an Xbox controller. What would happen if Y became select? Or if X became select? That would be so weird. Like, the select button has been a certain way my entire life, ever since I started playing video games at 6 years old or something stupid like that. So if it all of a sudden just changed on me, I'm sure I would get used to it eventually, but I mean, it would take a long time to get used to, probably. And I mean, I probably get it from the PlayStation side of things, like, you have to develop 2 versions of whatever you're making so that, just so that the controller is a little different depending on the region. It's an unfortunate mess that they got themselves into in the beginning there. Anyway, hopefully, nobody's gonna start beating them up over it. It's annoying, but it's not, like, life-changing or anything like that. I do kind of get it on, like, a minor scale when it comes to the Nintendo Switch, though. I honestly can't even, like, if you were forcing me to tell you what exactly each button is and does, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I pretty much always have to follow, like, the on-screen instructions for which button I'm supposed to press, and then I have to look down to find which one it is. You would think I would get the hang of it eventually, but I don't know, it's just, I'm an Xbox person. It's all I've ever had. I'm sure those of you who are older than me, or are more varied than I am, maybe have less of an issue with this, having played many more consoles than I have. But I don't know, like, I guess I kind of get the Switch a little bit more because I had the DS growing up. But there's been some funky stuff too, right? Like the GameCube controller was just out of this world. And that was probably my primary console as a kid. I guess the only people who don't really have to worry about that kind of thing is just PC-only players. And even then, I think every PC player needs to have a controller of some kind. Because there's some games that just need it, right? Even if it is a game made for PC. Something like Hades, for example, you can't play that on a keyboard and mouse. That would be a nightmare. However, if you grew up maybe as a PC gamer, before having a controller for your PC was very popular, or if you just prefer playing with a mouse and keyboard, obviously less of an issue in this case, less of an issue. I will say though, for some games, playing mouse and keyboard can be way more satisfying. Like, I remember in particular, I'm thinking of games like Doom, a lot of shooter games actually. Well, okay, first-person shooters. Third-person shooters, I probably use controller. Nonetheless, playing a first-person shooter with mouse and keyboard is so satisfying. After playing Call of Duty in my teens for like 4 years on the Xbox. Moving to the mouse where everything's more precise. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm much worse at the game because of that. It means everybody who's good at the game is just going to destroy me, but it is much more satisfying. Anyway, folks, if you have any strong controller opinions, feel free to share them in the Discord server, in the After-Show channel, and I'll be back with you tomorrow. So until then, farewell.